Hi. So, as this Labour leadership contest goes on, no doubt I'll have more things to say about that because, of course, I'm interested. It's important that a functioning democracy has strong opposition, um, and the Labour Party is the largest opposition party. So it makes sense that certainly I'm interested in the future of my country. I'm interested in who leads the opposition. Um, So this is going to be a drawn out process. I haven't looked at the time frame yet. I haven't had time to have a look at that, but it is going to be a drawn out process. The five candidates at present, I understand Clive Lewis is either, I don't think he's dropped out, but I think he's not sort of past the stage where he'd be considered a stronger candidate. I mean, he didn't appear at the sort of with the other four other five leaders. So let's assume Clive Lewis is out or not a serious candidate. I also think Clive Lewis made a mistake saying that at its core Brexit was about racism. That's the very sort of thinking that turned people against the Labour Party, that it's kind of sweeping statements like that. There is racism among the Leave side, without question. But anyway, I just think he's misguided to use that sort of pitch. So there's five, let's say, serious candidates. Sir Keir Starmer, Rebecca Long Bailey, Jess Phillips, Lisa Nandy, and Emily Thornberry. Now, as it stands, Sir Keir Starmer, and I should say that he apparently doesn't personally like the knighthood title that he's got. So Keir Starmer is currently the front runner, right? There may be a range of reasons for this, experience or who knows. He is the front runner as it stands, but things could change. This is a long process. Anyway, in an interview with Sophie Ridge on Sky News, apparently Jess Phillips said that men should stand by, they should sort of stand aside, and that the women, let a woman become leader. This is hardly surprising from Jess Phillips. She has always pushed this sort of narrative, um, and I don't think it's a good narrative. Now, she did say that she acknowledged that it's difficult to ask someone if they genuinely think they're the best candidate to step aside. So this was presumably a reference to Sir Keir Starmer. But what it basically comes down to, she has said that it would be humiliating if Labour doesn't elect a woman leader. Now, in 120 years, it's true, Labour hasn't had a woman leader, with the exceptions of the times that Harriet Harman and Margaret Beckett were interim leaders. You know, Labour hasn't had a long-term fixed woman leader in 120 years. So yes, that's obvious, and from that point of view, probably it is time that Labour had a woman leader. But that would be because it's um, it's just something that hasn't happened yet. It's something that probably needs to happen. I don't think it should be because you know vote for me because I'm a woman. That is basically the message that Labour feminists continuously zone in on. I mean, they won't say that's the issue. They won't say, "Oh, I'm not saying vote for me because I'm a woman." But Labour feminists have this mentality. They're obsessed by it in a way that women in the Tory party are not. And I think one reason the Tories have had two women leaders is precisely because they focus on it less. Let me explain that. I think that this obsessive focus about, oh well, we've never had a woman leader, so now it's time, like making that the priority. I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing it out and saying, look, this is a fact. We haven't had a woman leader. Maybe it's time, but there's so many other issues that we need to focus on. I mean, instead of trying to pit yourself against the men in the party, why doesn't Jess Phillips compare herself to other women in the party? For example, why is she a better candidate than Lisa Nandy? Why is she a better candidate than Emily Thornberry? This is what I dislike about, dislike about feminism in general, but it's noticeable about Labour feminists. It's divisive by nature because it pitches women against men. Now, of course, Phillips will deny that she's anti-male, but I do think that she has got away with things that no male MP would get away with. She has made sweeping statements about men that if a male MP said something similar about a woman, he would absolutely be metaphorically crucified. For example, she once in an interview told Jacob Rees-Mogg that, yes, they done this kind of joint feature. She said that it's disgraceful that Labour is led by a white man. She was referring to Corbyn. Um, that to me is blatantly wrong. If she says I have issue with Corbyn's politics, that's totally legitimate. But to say that being a white man is somehow a fault in of itself, she could say something like, "There is a perception that we've been dominated by white men." Okay, but saying it as if being a white man is actually a problem, is actually something that a person should be ashamed of. That's what I really take umbrage with. And Labour feminists do this thing where they'll say they're not anti-male, and maybe they're not, but the perception is they're saying. I mean, I think someone should directly ask Jess Phillips why would Keir Starmer not be a good candidate. Put her on the spot. I'd like to see what her answer is, because she'll probably get all defensive and say, "Oh no, I'm not. I'm not insulting him personally." But she's basically saying he should give up his ambitions, his perception that he's the best leader. And by the way, I'm not saying I support Keir Starmer. There's a few things I'm iffy about on his record, but the idea that he should simply step back is absurd. I mean, he's in his late 50s now, so this might be his, from his point of view, maybe he's thinking this is the chance. If I try it next time, I'll be too old. So I don't know. I don't know what the logic of that might be, but this idea that male candidates should just step aside, like, let's be chivalrous. Let's let the ladies have a go. It's actually rather patronising to women. I mean, there's five candidates. So Phillips can hardly say they're not being given an equal chance when most of the candidates at the moment are women, you know? Um, so I just think the whole philosophy of this is wrong. Like I say, I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing out that it is obvious. Okay, this party hasn't had a woman leader. Maybe we need to focus on that. But the problem is they're making it the main focus. By they, I'm talking about Labour feminists. They're saying this is the main issue. I honestly think the average Labour member does not care, male or female. I think they're more interested in ideology. Now, Jess Phillips is, there's some things I actually like about her. She is not far left. She is actually prepared to be outspoken in some areas that do matter. For example, she hasn't been afraid to speak out against Islamism. I give her credit for that. And that is refreshing within Labour ranks. And probably she's not a bad constituency MP. I mean, she does get re-elected, so clearly her constituents think she's good enough as a constituency MP. But she is a controversial figure. It's a famous video where she supposedly laughed during a committee discussing men's issues, including male suicide. Now, to be fair, I don't think she was literally laughing at male suicide. But the thing is, she took this whole attitude of, "Oh, I'm the only woman here," and then she had this sort of response of, if you look at the video, you'll see what I mean. It's sort of like, how can they talk about men's rights? I'm the only woman here. You're stop picking on me. And then she laughs sarcastically. I think that was the context. I don't think she was literally laughing at male suicide. It would be appalling if she was. I don't think she was. But basically, summed up, my perception of Jess Phillips is angry feminist. Now, I'm sorry, but that just isn't a vote winner. Certainly not with me. I'm not a Labour member, but if I was, I would not be voting for her for that reason. Because my perception is, well, she has a problem with men. I think there is, if she doesn't want to be stereotyped as an angry feminist, then she needs to say, she needs to make it clear she's not against her male colleagues, but she thinks that she's the best candidate because of X, Y, and Z. She can point to constituency work that she's done. She can point to the things she's passionate about in other areas. I'm not saying totally ignore the gender issue. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that the obsession with it gives a perception that that is the only thing that she thinks matters, and it clearly isn't. Now, I think the real battle in Labour isn't about whether the candidate's male or female. I think it's about the direction the party goes in. Now, Rebecca Long Bailey is just going to be Corbyn Part 2. I think that What Labour probably needs is a centre-left candidate who is neither Corbynite or Blairite, but who also recognises why the party lost in Labour heartlands. Well, they didn't quite lose here, but they came close. So that's the real focus. And Jess Phillips doesn't seem to grasp that. So by relying on this, it looks kind of desperate. If Keir Starmer wins, it will be because Labour members think he's the best candidate. And if he loses, it's because they think he's not the best candidate. I actually get quite a good impression from Lisa Nandy on the ground that she's been going out there. She's been listening to, anger. I think I'm going to look at her record a bit more. I'm going to look at what she's proposing. If I was a Labour member, I'd probably be torn between Lisa Nandy and Keir Starmer. But, like I say, there's a few things I'm iffy about in Keir Starmer's record. For example, as not Attorney General, the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, he didn't prosecute the police officer who killed Ian, who was responsible for the death, I should say, of Ian Tomlinson, the protester. Well, actually, no, not the protester, the man who died after this PC pushed him to the ground during the 2009 G20 summit. Keir Starmer chose not to prosecute him. Now, I'm not. That doesn't sit too well with me because it gives the impression that he's kind of, putting an officer of the law above the law. And there's a few other things I'm a bit wary of. But this is going to be a drawn out process. I just think that Jess Phillips is wrong to make it about it's because I'm a woman. That is not a vote winner. She should be saying why she's the best candidate in a range of other ways, and her supporters will say, "Oh, but she is doing that." But the perception is she is prioritising the vote for a woman thing. The idea that male candidates should not take their opportunities should not. That's absurd. In a democracy, um, the way politics works is people who get involved in the political system, they're ambitious. I mean, it sounds like a dirty word, but they're ambitious, right? And if someone's putting themselves forward, the idea that, oh, I'll just be a gentleman, I'll just stand by and let one of the women win, even though I think I'm the better candidate, oh, I better be a gentleman, I better show how progressive I am by letting them stand. No, have a fair contest. Because actually, what does that do? All it does is actually patronise women by saying they're not capable of standing against a male candidate. That's the perception it sends out. That i.e. they can only win by not having any man on the ballot. Now that's absurd. Why? Because there has been occasions like the Tories have shown where actually women have defeated men in 1975 and in 2016. So I just think the logic is wrong.